In the late 1960s, Northern California was gripped by a terrifying mystery. The so-called Zodiac killer stalked the San Francisco Bay Area, committing brutal murders and sending taunting letters to the press. In fact, Zodiac is the pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who murdered 5 known victims between December 1968 and October 1969. FBI archives note these crimes were seemingly random and terrorized Northern California for years as the Zodiac sent cryptic notes and ciphers to law enforcement. The killer's identity has never been discovered. The case is arguably the most famous unsolved murder case in American history. December 20th, 1968 was a quiet Friday evening when the Zodiac's first known murder occurred. 5 nights before Christmas, high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday set out on their first official date together. They parked the Rambler along a secluded stretch of Lake Herman Road in Benicia. Moments later, passing drivers found the couple's bodies. Betty Lou Jensen, 16, was shot 5 times in the back. David Faraday, 17, was shot once in the head. It appeared to be a cold-blooded ambush of random teens. Investigators believe the 2 teenagers were likely random targets. The crime scene yielded 22 caliber shell casings and a bullet hole in the car's windshield, but no suspect. Law enforcement quickly arrived. Officers surveyed the eerie scene under flashlight beams. They noted the gunman had fired warning shots through the car's roof, forcing the couple out before shooting them in cold blood. Ballistic tests showed the bullets came from a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. The victims had been shot at very close range. Authorities labeled the crime bizarre and inexplicable. No clue to a motive or suspect. The case went cold for months until July 1969. 6 months later, on Independence Day, Zodiac struck again. On July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferran, 22, and her friend Michael Mageau, 19, went to a lover's lane at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Around midnight, another car pulled in beside them. The passenger stepped out, flashed a bright light, and opened fire with a 9mm Luger pistol. Darlene took multiple bullets and died almost immediately. Michael was hit in the jaw, shoulder, and leg, but survived. A shaken Michael later told police he saw the assailant's legs and a flashlight beam, but not his face. This was the Zodiac's second known attack. The survivor, Michael Mageau, managed to radio for help. Moments later, a chilling phone call arrived at the Vallejo Police Department. A man calmly identified himself as the killer. "I want to report a murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." After that call, the killer vanished again into the night. The admission linked this crime to the Lake Herman Road murders. Police now believe they were hunting the same person. Investigators scoured Vallejo but found no suspects. In the days after Vallejo, the mystery deepened. The killer began communicating with the media. On July 31st, 1969, he mailed 3 almost identical letters to the Vallejo Times-Herald, San Francisco Chronicle, and San Francisco Examiner. Each letter claimed credit for the 2 recent attacks and included a portion of a complex cipher. In the Vallejo letter, he warned newspapers, "If you do not print this cipher by 1 p.m. on August 1st, I will go on a killing rampage." The local press reluctantly published the cipher in hopes of preventing further crimes. Then on August 4th, the Chronicle received a follow-up letter. This was the first time he gave himself a name. "This is the Zodiac speaking." Thus, the killer adopted the alias Zodiac. By late September, the Zodiac struck again. College students Brian Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Shepard, 22, were enjoying a picnic on a sunny Saturday afternoon at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Suddenly, a man appeared wearing a hooded costume marked with a white circle and cross on his chest. He claimed he had escaped from prison and needed money. The stranger pulled out a rope and forced Brian and Cecilia at knife point to tie each other up. Then he stabbed Brian 6 times in the back. Cecilia fought back but was stabbed 10 times. Miraculously, Brian survived. Cecilia collapsed bleeding. The killer calmly walked to Brian's car and used the tip of his knife to write on the door, September 27, 1969, 6:30 by knife, along with cross-circle symbols and the dates of the earlier attacks. He left the handkerchief he had used to cover his face. At 7:40 p.m. that night, Napa police received a phone call from a man stating simply, "I'm the one who did it." 2 days later, Cecilia Shepard died of her wounds. Brian Hartnell would recover. Investigators arrived at Berryessa and found a grisly scene. Napa officers took photos of the message on Brian's car door. Handwriting experts later confirmed the scrawl matched that of the Zodiac's letters. The symbol and dates tied the Berryessa crime unmistakably to the Zodiac. Napa detectives set up roadblocks, but the killer had vanished. With Cecilia's death, the confirmed Zodiac body count rose to 5 victims, 4 dead, 2 wounded. The Bay Area was reeling in fear. On October 11th, the Zodiac made his final confirmed kill. It was just after 10:55 p.m. in San Francisco's upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. Paul Stein, 29, a married journalism student working night shifts as a cab driver, picked up a passenger at Washington and Cherry Streets. Minutes later, police heard a gunshot and arrived to find Stein slumped in his green taxi, shot in the head. The passenger had already fled on foot. The assailant tore a section from Paul's bloodstained shirt and took it with him. Officers on patrol mistakenly broadcast that the suspect was a black man, based on an initial witness report. When white men matching the true description walked by, officers ignored them. No arrest was made that night. The crime scene yielded 2 palm prints on the cab's door, and a policeman took a composite sketch from witnesses. After Stein's murder, the police investigation continued. Detectives collected the piece of Paul's shirt from the taxi and had it processed for blood evidence. They also followed up leads on the fingerprint match in the sketch, but the trail grew cold. Then on October 13th, the San Francisco Chronicle received an envelope containing a letter signed Zodiac, its first explicit claim of this murder. The note began, "I am the murderer of the taxi driver." Inside the envelope was a small swatch of the bloodstained shirt. The Zodiac was mocking the police. He had gotten away despite being surrounded by armed officers that night. By late 1969, the Zodiac was having a chilling effect on the Bay Area. He mailed more letters and cards to the newspapers. One famous message, the 340 cipher, sent in November 1969, contained no obvious clue to his identity. In all, investigators found at least 4 complex ciphers in Zodiac correspondence. 2 of them have been solved, one by amateur code breakers shortly after 1969, and another only in 2020 using modern cryptanalysis. His letters promised future attacks and even bomb threats, claiming he would kill more people if his demands, like publicizing his letters or wearing Zodiac buttons, were not met. However, he never again successfully murdered anyone after 1969. Over the years, dozens of suspects have been proposed by police and amateur sleuths. The FBI and local agencies focused on various leads. The only person ever publicly named as a serious suspect was Arthur Lee Allen, a Vallejo school teacher. Allen had a history of criminal behavior and owned a Zodiac brand watch, but he repeatedly denied any involvement. In 1992, Allen died of a heart attack. Years later, genetic testing and modern analysis found Allen's DNA did not match evidence from the Zodiac letters, casting doubt on that theory. No suspect has ever been proven to be the Zodiac killer. The case remains officially open in multiple jurisdictions. The California Department of Justice, the FBI, and county agencies all still list Zodiac as an unsolved case. Decades later, the Zodiac killer remains one of America's enduring mysteries. His story inspired books, films, and true crime media. Clint Eastwood's 1971 movie Dirty Harry famously featured a villain patterned on the Zodiac. Investigators still hope that new techniques, digital forensics, genealogy, better cipher computers, might someday solve the case. The San Francisco Police Department marked Zodiac inactive in 2004, later reopening the case around 2007. But many agencies keep it open and periodically review the evidence. In 2020, a previously unsolved 340-character cipher was finally decoded, revealing Zodiac's taunting message, but not his name. The Zodiac killer's identity remains unknown. His final rank is the same 5 victims and mystery spanning more than half a century.